Hello everyone, I'm not much of a storyteller, but I had to tell you about something that occurred to several of my pals a while ago. So there's this kid who grew up in a spooky forest. People have been yapping about ghosts hiding in the trees since he was knee-high. But here's the twist. When he got older, his friends Jake, Sam and Alex began whispering about some great treasure deep in the woods. I've known these men for years, and this story, it's something right out of a nightmare. Youngsters decided to trek into the cursed woodland in search of the wealth that people had been speculating about for decades. So one moonlight night they wake up and depart without a trace. And get this, they took a camera with them. Why? Who knows? Maybe to find the riches or to disprove the ghost claims. I live right next to that eerie thicket, and let me tell you, as the sun goes down, the air around here thickens like molasses. It's as if the entire building springs to life with secrets and shadows. So the three stooges decide now is the moment to reveal the secrets of their cursed woods. They walk in with spotlights flashing and the strange noises of the night playing tricks on their thoughts. Even an adult would be scared, let alone these youngsters who felt they were indestructible. They went further, shadows swaying in the moonlight. This is when things start to get strange. See, the entire ordeal was captured on the camera they brought along. I got my hands on the film in some way. And what did I see? You'll be chilled to the bone. The muttering began as they traveled through the gnarled woods. Soft, like leaves rustling, yet menacing, as if they were telling the lads their deepest secrets. The camera shakes, pans and zooms so quickly that it appears they are fleeing something. But what exactly? The figures then appeared. Between the woods, ghostly, hideous forms move. It seemed as if the woods had sprung to life. The guys were terrified, their voices trembling, and they swore they could feel the ghost's breath on their necks. I'm not a believer in ghosts, but watching that footage, let me tell you, I've got the heebie-jeebies, shadows twisting, reality distorting, and the boys, they began acting strangely as if the forest was messing with their heads. The camera caught their spiral into insanity. Did their laughing evolve into wild shouts and tears? Hollow, as if they saw things they shouldn't have. They raced in circles, tripping over roots and each other, stuck in a hellish cycle. They were eventually discovered muttering incoherent gibberish. Their thoughts were shattered like glass, and they will never be the same again. The townspeople said that the forest entered their minds and showed them things they couldn't understand. They're now imprisoned in some asylum, the echoes of their voices haunting them for the rest of their lives. So here I am telling you this story. Don't poke around where you're not supposed to. The forests have a thirst for secrets, and there's no getting out once they've got a grasp on you. Gather round, guys, for I have a story to tell you that sent shivers down my spine. This occurred to a friend of mine, an army officer returning home after a long absence. This isn't your typical leave story. This is about a late-night journey he took. A shortcut that brought him to a location he wishes he hadn't visited. There's my pal, let's call him Jake, cruising down this barren road that's not on any map. He'd heard stories about how this shortcut wasn't the best idea. But Jake's a courageous guy, right? He figured he'd save time by taking the darn item. Night was as dark as the devil's heart, and the road was twisting and turning like something out of a horror film. Jake notices this girl standing on the side of the road. You have to wonder what a female is doing in the middle of nowhere, with no cars or homes around. Jake, being the kind man that he is, pulls over to assist. When she gets in the car, things start to become bizarre. She's as silent as a ghost floating in the passenger seat. Jake inquires as to her destination, but she remains silent. She only stares ahead, her eyes as icy as a winter night. Jake isn't afraid of a good mystery, but this female is giving him the chills. The air in the car becomes heavy, as if the strain is crawling on your skin. Jake tries to make a small chat by asking about her, but she's not giving anything up. Jake begins to notice things as they travel down that lonely road. Shadows flitting through the trees, odd noises making his hair stand on end. But the girl is just sitting there, as still as the tomb. Jake, being a strong army guy, attempts to dismiss the eerie feeling. Perhaps it's the dark playing tricks on him, he thinks. He eventually arrives at the girl's purported location, a peaceful area in the middle of nowhere. She walks away without saying anything, disappearing into the darkness. Jake, startled, hurries away, putting some distance between himself and that weird girl. Days later, he receives news that completely freezes him in his tracks. They discovered a corpse, and it just so happened to be the same female he provided a ride to that creepy night. Jake's mind is racing. How could that be the same girl he left behind? It just didn't make sense. She was a hitchhiker who'd gone missing a few days before Jake picked her up. The authorities believe she had already gone when Jake came across her. It gave him goosebumps and made him wonder what he witnessed that night. Was it a spirit? A ghost attempting to communicate with him? Jake has no answers, only the recollection of that eerie night seared in his head. So take it from me, if you ever find yourself on a lonely road late at night, be cautious of anyone you pick up. You can wind up with more than just a shotgun rider. Hey, I've got to tell you about this night trip I took once. I was quite bored, you know. I was at home staring at the walls as if they were going to tell me a story or something. I decided to get out, go for a drive, and maybe find some excitement. Now, I've heard of this frightening route known as Midnight Highway. They claimed it had a ghost tied to it, but I didn't believe any of it. It's not my style to believe in ghost stories. I'm a rational guy. I then got into my old pickup and drove away. The air seemed strange and heavy, like if you could cut it with a knife. The trees on the sides of the road appeared to be leaning in, as if they were listening to my truck rumble by. I turned on the radio and tried to shake off the heebie-jeebies, you know? But suddenly the radio began to crackle. Almost like whispering, not like standard static. Unidentified voices whispering and talking about topics I couldn't make out. I assumed it was simply a faulty signal or something, but the hairs on the back of my neck stood on up. I kept driving, trying to ignore it. That was when I noticed her, looking in the rearview mirror. A pale and ghostly apparition with sunken eyes stares at me. I slammed on the brakes, but she was still there, getting closer. The trees on the side of the road began to twist and move as if they were alive. I felt like I was driving into another universe, somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. The radio whispers became louder, like 1,000 voices all talking at once. Suddenly, the road came to an abrupt stop as I rounded a corner, as if it had never existed. My heart was racing through my chest. I couldn't figure out where I was. The phantom figure was in the truck with me now, whispering things that made my skin crawl. I attempted to turn around, but the road behind me had vanished. No escape route. The whispers became screams as the trees closed in around them. Now I was not driving on a nocturnal highway, I was driving in a damn forest. I noticed shadows moving between the trees for reasons I couldn't understand. My truck bounced as if it was riding over pebbles, although there were none. Just shadows and darkness. And then it took place. My truck suddenly came to a stop, lights out, engine dead. There was a God knows what around me, and I was caught in the middle of that dark wilderness. The whispering grew louder, and I noticed her again. The ghostly form standing outside my window. Her icy, bony hand touched my shoulder as she reached in. I was immobile, not even able to yell. Her lifeless eyes were the last thing I saw before everything turned black. I woke from my dream at home feeling confused. I knew it wasn't, though. Even when I was fully awake, those voices continued to reach me. And sometimes, late at night, I catch her still whispering horrible things to them in the corner of my room. I'm not sure what the location was, but it clearly wasn't natural. All of you avoid the Midnight Highway. Nothing good is going to happen if you drive down that path.